A young woman found dead inside her Valley Station home in February. Kylie Miller, just 21 years old, had been shot multiple times, leaving her little boy without a mother and loved ones in shock.
There's nothing that she could have done that, when you get mad at someone, deserve that type of, retaliation, punishment, or whatever. I mean, nobody deserves anything like that.
Verlita Miller later learned there had been some type of argument at her niece's home on Sidney Renee Way. This week, she got more answers when police charged 29-year-old Richard Goodman with the crime. Someone her niece had known, trusted, and according to police, even spent her final hours with. Miller describes the details of the case as beyond horrible.
It's so disgusting, and some of the stuff is just unbelievable that I just can't imagine how somebody can do some of these things to people.
Now, according to court documents, it was cell phone data that tied Goodman to the area where Miller's car had been found not far from here, on fire and in a field. And then there were also the phone calls between him and an inmate at Metro Corrections, talking in chilling detail about what had happened here. Goodman had already been at Metro Corrections, charged with wanton endangerment for another shooting when he was charged with murder. Miller's family says they are grateful for the work of police and look forward to having their day in court.
He's going to know that there's people that he has hurt. He's going to see that she has people. She has family. We love her, and this is not okay. This is not okay that he's done this.
Lauren Adams, WLKY News.
Goodman faced a judge Thursday who set his bond at $250,000 cash. He returns to court next Friday.
Police are investigating after a deadly crash on Breckenridge Lane. Around 5 this morning, officers responded to a crash between Hikes and Sudbury Lanes. They say that the driver lost control of their vehicle and crashed. A woman in the passenger seat was thrown from the car and died at the scene. The driver was not injured. LMPD's traffic unit is now investigating. And take a look at this crash. It happened around noon in downtown Louisville at the corner of Broadway and Jackson. A witness says that a white car was speeding down Broadway when it hit the black car on Jackson. The witness tells us that the white car spun around, hit the fence in front, and then this building and burst into flames. Police believe at least 3 people got out of the white car and ran. One of those suspects was detained a couple of blocks away, but police believe that that person was a passenger. They were cited for fleeing the scene of an accident, but not arrested. At least one person from the black car was taken to the hospital, but they are expected to survive their injuries.
Police are investigating a possible early morning shooting in Okolona. Officers responded to a report of a person shot on Woodhill Lane, not far from Shepherdsville Road, around 8 o'clock this morning. When they arrived on scene, they found an injured man and he was taken to the hospital. It's not clear what his condition is at this time. A solemn morning as a memorial service marked 7 years since LMPD officer Nick Rodman died in the line of duty. Rodman's family, friends, and fellow officers came together for a graveside service at Cave Hill Cemetery. On March 29, 2017, Rodman was responding to a report of shots fired, which led to a pursuit of a suspect. During the chase, a suspect crashed into Rodman's cruiser, starting a fire. Rodman was taken to the hospital, where he later died. His family says his legacy will live on forever.
He lived a life that we can all learn from and should all try to emulate. It was through these stories that I realized Nick's life will always be immortalized in the people he touched. Not just the ones who knew him well, but the ones who only got to spend a fleeting moment with him. That was his gift.
Rodman's family was created a foundation in the officer's honor.
Governor Beshear showed his appreciation for Vietnam veterans this morning. Today, March 29th, is National Vietnam Veterans Day. And local leaders joined the governor and veterans to honor those who served at Veterans Memorial Park in J-Town. Governor Beshear delivered a speech at the event, followed by fellow veterans who gave their account of the war. And there was also a moment of silence, recognizing those who gave their life and those who were never found. The governor also proclaimed today as Vietnam Veterans Day and a salute to Service Day in the Commonwealth.
A controversial anti-diversity, equity, and inclusion bill appears to have died in Frankfort.
It's one of many bills that were being closely watched yesterday, the last day before state lawmakers went on their veto break.
WLKY's Mark Vanderhoff gives us a look at that and some other bills that were passed over.
Senate Bill 6 would have eliminated diversity, equity, and inclusion, or DEI, programs at public colleges and universities like U of L here. Many people thought it would get its final vote on Thursday, but it was never called.
I think the DEI bill failed more of a clash of personalities than agenda.
Senate Bill 6 drew protests and public opposition from university presidents, like U of L's Kim Schatzel.
My hat's off to my colleagues across the aisle who are willing to change their position on it when they were able to see the negative effects it would have for Kentucky.
Another controversial bill that didn't get a final vote, House Bill 509, which would require public officials and city employees to conduct official communications on a government email, but would exempt their private emails and text messages from the Open Records Act.
It's still alive, and I think it will pass.
There is one bill Senator David Yates wished would have at least received a committee hearing. Senate Bill 99 was named Hadley's Law after the woman who appeared in a well-known campaign ad for Governor Andy Beshear. It would have created exceptions to Kentucky's abortion ban for rape and incest.
There was no discussion, there was no argument. I'm hoping the final days that you at least get to know where your legislator stands. Because most people have said, I agree with this, yet there it sits.
State lawmakers can still call up any of these bills when they come back in mid-April for the last 2 days of the session. But there is a catch. At that point, they won't be able to come back and override any of the governor's additional vetoes after that, and that's going to influence which bills they call up. Mark Vanderhoff, WLKY News.